Hey everybody, Jason Yee here, and in this video we're going to go over a 6-week how to skate like McDavid tutorial where we're going to break down his mechanics and show you the exact drills that you need to skate like McDavid. So we're going to go over who am I, who this is for, why this works, and how we're going to do it. Now, I am a former pro kinesiologist, founder of Train 2.0, and when I first started playing, I worked way too hard doing all the wrong things, and what I learned in the process of becoming a pro and really making my own skating more efficient through my degree as a kinesiologist is what I'm sharing with you today. Now, who this is for players who have a growth mindset, who believe that if you work hard and learn and develop your skills, you can actually improve your mechanical advantage to skate more like superstar NHLers. We call this skating downhill when you improve your mechanical advantage because it's both easier and faster, kind of like you're going downhill. And it's for thoughtful players, parents, coaches who like to challenge common beliefs. And this is not for players who have a fixed mindset, players, parents, and coaches who prefer common knowledge and who don't want to stand out from the crowd. So if that's you, this video is not for you. Thanks for clicking, but go watch another video. For everyone else, I'm going to explain why this whole thing works, why this approach to downhill skating works, is really because most players are using power skating mechanics, and they're not natural to their bodies, and they cause massive wastes of energy. And power skating technique is often different from what NHL superstars do in a game, like how they skate. And actually learning their mechanics from a game, most players can dramatically improve their speed without extra energy. And so here's how we're going to do this. I'm going to coach you over the next 6 weeks here, and I'm going to release the first 3 weeks for free on YouTube, and this will make a massive improvement in your skating effortlessness and speed. And then the last 3 weeks will be released inside of the downhill skating system, which has a 30-day money-back guarantee, so you can actually test it out for free. And obviously, if you watch this and you do nothing with this information, you don't try out the drills, you don't put in any work, nothing's going to change. And so you obviously won't see any results. Now, if you follow my coaching for the next 3 weeks, you test it out, you have an open mind, and you see results, you might want to complete your training over the last 3 weeks. And so here's what your next 6 weeks are going to look like. Week 1, today, we're going to fix something called your push angle. Week 2, we're going to fix something called your inner spring. And then week 3, we're going to learn the inner spring arm swing. And week 4, we're going to get leverage with your skate angle. And week 5, we're going to optimize your head tracking and cadence. And then week 6, we're going to unlock your hips for maximum spring. Now, my request is that you suspend your disbelief while you test out these secrets. And don't worry, think, or analyze about how things should be, because this is something totally new. And so my request is that when you're testing this out is that you're present to what is, how you're moving, and the feeling or lack thereof of tension. And so really, we're going to break down McDavid's straight ahead stride, and we're going to look at what makes it different than what is commonly taught in power skating. And we all know this goal, and it's a great opportunity to dissect his mechanics. And we're going to pull from a few different examples. So the first thing is that you'll notice that McDavid is a wide tracker, right? And if you see here, he's planting, but he's always planting outside of his center of gravity, right? And please don't be one of those people where you're like, well, if he just planted inside, he could be so much faster. Like, I'm going to explain why that doesn't actually make sense or work. But again, you can see where his center of gravity is, and the camera's on a bit of an angle, so it looks like he's planting a little more under his body than he is. But you can really see, especially once he gets up to speed, that he's planting quite wide, right? He's planting quite wide and then pushing out from there. When it comes to wide tracking, the reason that we want to be a wide tracker is I'm going to talk about why this whole thing works, is that this is what a speed skater does. They clearly plant underneath their body, and so here's a great example. They clearly plant underneath their body and like on the other side of their center of gravity, right? And so McDavid would be planting here, and the speed skater plants here. And then what that allows them to do is it allows them to land on their outside edge, roll over onto their inside edge, and then shift their center of mass over so that they're falling this way. So that's what a speed skater does. But the difference between a speed skater and a hockey player is that context is more important than speed. And hockey players really must be able to move laterally, accelerate, and decelerate. And what you really need is the ability to have options, where a speed skater optimizes for maximum velocity and efficiency. So think of it as like a Formula One car versus a drag car. A drag car needs to go fast in a straight line, and a Formula One car needs to be super, super agile. And a Formula One car is very fast. It's just not as fast in a straight line as a drag car. And you want to think of McDavid more as a Formula One car, and his stride more is designed to be Formula One, and a speed skater as like a drag racer. And so that's why this whole thing works. Now when we talk about wide tracking, the only way to generate power from width is to twist. And if you kind of think of like how most people think of a stride, they kind of make it seem like, oh, it's just like flexion. Like, you know, it's like, okay, here I'm here, and you know, I need to flex my ankles and my hip. So this is hip flexion here, this is knee flexion here, and this is ankle flexion here. And then they think that the other part of it is just the extension. So, you know, you just triple extend this way. You hear that all the time, right? You need to triple extend through your hips, knees, and ankles. And that's like the typical power skating, is that you have flexion of ankle, knee, hip, like I just showed you, and then triple extension of ankle, knee, and hip, plus external rotation at the hip. So that's what this toe pointing out is. That's when the hip is facing this way. That's like your typical understanding of the stride. But the way McDavid skates is more like a double plus one extension, and he loads it differently than we think. More ankle pronation, meaning ankle collapse, knee into a more valgus position, which means knee collapse internally, and then your hips turn counterclockwise when it's your right stride. And then the extension occurs in hips and knees first, and then ankles. And I'm going to show you a few different examples of this. And so the first one would be kind of like when we see McDavid, and you know how he kind of has that look like he's swimming? Well, that's kind of what that is there. And so what you're kind of seeing is, first step, plants wide, and then the ankle collapses. So that's the pronation. The second thing is his knee is going to kind of collapse internally, and that's called a valgus alignment. I'm going to show you this a better example with McKinnon. And it kind of like internally rotates. And then, because this is his right foot, right stride, his hips are going to twist counterclockwise. So you're going to see his hips turn this way. And then you see the extension. And the extension is, again, hip and knee first, and then toe. And you're going to see a couple sideways examples of it in a second. So you're getting a different loading pattern than what power skating instructors are telling you, which is ankle pronation, knee collapse, and then hip twist. And then the extension pattern is a little different too, because it's not a triple extension, it's like a double plus one. And I'm going to show you a couple side examples of this. So here's a pretty good example of the side view, where you're going to see the double plus one extension. So you're going to see how he plants, and then you're going to see the hip and knee. You're going to see the hip and knee extend first. This looks like a triple extension. I fully give you that. But we're going to get to a different side angle where we'll see a better version of it once he's at speed. So here you're going to get, there's hip and knee extension there, right? There's your hip and knee extension, and then the last frame is going to be the triple extension, the ankle extension. So that's him at speed, right? And you're going to see it again here too, where again you're going to see hip and knee extension, his heel still on the ice, and then toe extension as he fully twists through. The other thing I'm going to show you is McKinnon, because this gives you a really good look at what I mean by the knee collapse. Now at speed it's not quite as big, but this shows you a really good example of it. So what do we see again? We see ankle collapse, and then we see knee and a valgus knee alignment. So the knee ends up collapsing. So we see ankle collapse, we see knee, valgus, and this kind of like internal rotational pressure allows him to spring. And then the last part we talked about is hips twist. Boom. So you can see how his hips twist that way to generate his power. And then so from here, again, we see the hip and knee extend, and then the last part is the toe off. So my whole point with this is that when you're wide tracking, the only way to generate power is not from a push, but it's from a twist. And so here's what you're going to do. Your coaching this week is to practice 2 movements. One is called the corkscrew with specifically double shoulder width, because when it's double shoulder width, you have to twist. And so that looks like this. It's a really simple drill where all you're doing is you just have your feet double shoulder width, and I'll show you what I mean by that. You have your feet at double shoulder width. If this is your shoulder width, you want to have your feet roughly double. You're going to keep your feet on the ice, and you're going to use little C-cuts and the twist of your upper body and lower body against each other to create your movement. Now this is really, working on that double extension plus 1, because now what you can see here is there's an extension of both hip and knee joint, but not extension of the ankle. So this is really teaching you to use the twist of your hips and your body to generate your movement. And so what this really does is it changes your push angle from being directly back, which causes players a lot of harm in their optionality, to more sideways like this. The second drill that you're going to do is called the stutter step. And this is again to change that push angle from the directly front to back, and more to be at this side. And so that is what the 2 drills that you're going to do this week, and that's going to change your push angle and make it easier for you to twist to stride instead of push to stride. And once you get comfortable with the double shoulder width corkscrew and stutter, you can also add in a corkscrew to stutter, so you can transition between the 2. And so do at least 300 reps of each of these drills over the course of this week, and notice what happens to your speed, and notice what happens to your effortlessness, and what happens when you twist instead of push. And now for you, it's time to get to work. Test out these drills with an open mind, and some of you guys may actually want to get started on the downhill skating system, like the full thing, and so I've prepared a free training for you to see what that's all about. And if you want to see next week's video so that you can keep up with your progression, subscribe to Train 2.0 here, and turn on the bell so you get notified when next week's video hits. So we'll see you then for week 2 on this tutorial on how to skate like McDavid. Thanks for watching.